Hi everyone and welcome to the Africa History Channel, where we bring you snippets of African history from the perspective of Africans. We continue on our series on the Bombardment of Lagos in 1851. This is the fourth of 6 episodes, so don't forget to like, share and subscribe. You can find the other episodes in the links in the description. Let's get started. 1803 and Oba Ologun Kutere has died. In his 23-year reign, Lagos, the Benin Empire colony that he ruled, had grown rich on the back of the boom in the slave trade, taking advantage of the mistakes of King Agonglo of Dahomey to become the leading slave port on the slave coast of West Africa. In spite of Agonglo's attempts at using his military to forcefully redirect trade towards Dahomey, people then, as people now do, responded to economic incentives and moved their trade to Lagos, causing a strong decline in trade in Dahomey. To boost his declining numbers, Agonglo increased his army's slave raiding into the Mahi territory to the north. While this provided a short-term boost in supply of captives to sell into slavery for the Dahomey, he only ended up disrupting the trade routes in the violence, and traders avoided his territory even more. His attempts to acquire slaves militarily instead of trading for them drove the African traders to Lagos. And with the movement of their supply, more European traders moved to Lagos as well. Unfortunately for Agonglo, events on the European continent extended their reach to his shores, showing just how interconnected the world was even at this time as it is today. The French, during their revolution, had banned the slave trade in 1794, even though Napoleon would go on to reverse this ban in 1802. However, while this ban was on and Europe was at war, in November 1794, the French seized all the Portuguese slave ships in the Dahomeyan port of Ouidah. The result was that the Portuguese moved to the British-protected Lagos, trading from there. This was a devastating blow to Agonglo. Because of this, in addition to his efforts on the home front, Agonglo attempted to get some results through foreign relations. He sent 3 ambassadors across the Atlantic to the court of Queen Maria I of Portugal to appeal to her to compel her traders to resume most of their trading at his ports. While his ambassadors were very well received, their mission ultimately failed. This, combined with other internal disputes, led to the assassination of King Agonglo in a palace coup led by his brother Dogon and a high-ranking woman, Na Nwangele, in 1797. While Dogon's coup was successful, he would be unsuccessful in his bid for the throne, as other officials rallied and put down the coup, burying the conspirators alive, and then placing Agonglo's minor son, Adandozan, on the throne, with a regency council ruling in his name. Adandozan would go on to begin to rule in his own name in 1804, 1 year after Oba Ologun Kutere of Lagos died, 2 years after Napoleon reversed the French ban on slave trade, and 3 years before the British Abolition Act. This period saw a resurgence in slave trade in Dahomey's ports, yet it trailed Lagos. It was behind Lagos. When the British ban came, Adandozan reverted to the policies of his father. He also attempted to appeal to the Portuguese queen in letters which we now have copies. An excerpt from one of these letters, sent in 1811, reads, "The king also begs the queen to make a law to prevent ships to trade at any place near his dominions lower down the coast than Ouidah, as by means of trading vessels, the people are getting rich and withstanding his authority. He wishes all factories for palm oil and captives be removed from Badagry, Porto Novo, Agado, and Lagos, as the trade that is now done in those places can be done at Ouidah, and the king will then receive his duties. He hopes the queen will send him some good tower guns and blunderbusses, and plenty of them to enable him make war. He also uses many cowries and wishes the queen's subjects to bring plenty to Wida to make trade. Eventually, the downturn in economics and his response led him to suffer a similar fate with his father. Even though he was not killed, he was deposed by his brother, Gezo, in a palace coup in 1818, and his memory was erased from the Dahomey king list. Only the records of his foreign relations made it clear that he had indeed ruled Dahomey for nearly 20 years. In this time, enterprising princes in the Lagos royal family took advantage of their position to grow rich in the slave trade. At the death of Ologun Kutere, he left 3 sons. The eldest was Oshinlokun, and he was followed by Adelie. The youngest of the trio was Akitoye. While he was the eldest, Oshinlokun did not succeed his father. Instead, after a nearly 7-year interregnum, his younger brother, Adelie, succeeded their father in 1811. There are 2 theories as to why this happened. The first was that Adelie was preferred by his father and the Akarigbere chiefs because he was closer to his father and had a stronger mechanical aptitude. However, in the second version, Oshinlokun preferred to remain a private citizen, trading in slaves, because he had grown very wealthy on the booming trade in Lagos in this period, and taking the throne would mean he had to share of his wealth in patronage, distributing to the chiefs and people to obtain their support. This he did not want to do. It is likely a combination of both factors that came to play in Adelie's succession to the Obaship of Lagos. In order to secure his position, Adelie had to deliver his father's body to Benin, where he will then receive the blessing of the Oba of Benin to ascend the throne. Therefore, while he was effectively in control of Lagos after his father died in 1803, his reign is not officially started until 1811, when he finally succeeded at this task. His first attempt in 1809 had been thwarted when the Ishekiri attacked his party en route to Benin. Adelie's reign would eventually become unpopular for a bunch of reasons. There was the rise of the spread of Islam in Lagos at this time, which the chiefs believed he should have checked, because it was around the same period that the Muslim-led uprising in the Oyo heartland occurred. Hence, many of the other kingdoms, including Lagos, found a surge in their Muslim population threatening. In addition, he also introduced the Egungun festival to Lagos, and this was equally unpopular amongst the people and the chiefs at the time. There was, however, an economic angle. Adelie became Oba just after the Abolition Act was passed by the British, and the enforcement was just beginning to ramp up. This affected trade volumes. In Lagos, where those that participated in the slave trade were more widespread, this economic impact reached more people, causing the disaffection to be equally more widespread. In addition, with his trading fortunes reducing due to the decline in the slave trade, Prince Oshinlokun became interested in the political authority of being Oba. At the same time, Adelie, who initially generously gave the chiefs gifts when trade boomed, was unable to do so as trade dwindled. The Lagos chiefs therefore invited Oshinlokun, who was living in exile, to come and take over. In the fighting that ensued, Adelie found himself deserted by the people who flocked to Oshinlokun's side. He was able to flee to Badagry, where he assumed leadership of the town, while Oshinlokun commenced his reign as Oba of Lagos in 1821. In 1825, Adelie defeated an attempted invasion of Badagry by the combined forces of Lagos, Dahomey, and Porto Novo. 4 years later, in 1829, Adelie himself mustered a force led by his head slave, Bombani, and sought British help in order to retake his throne by force. A British anti-slavery ship would bombard Lagos from the sea, while Adelie attempted a landing with his army, made up mainly of Hausa slaves, in a foreshadowing of what would happen in the 1851 bombardment of Lagos. This attempt failed, and Bombani was captured and executed. When Adelie returned home, he faced another calamity. A gunpowder store in his compound exploded, destroying his home, property, and killing many of his followers. This sent him into years of despair. After this, he seemed to lose interest in pursuing the Lagos throne. Even when Oshilokun died in 1829, Adelie did not attempt to retake the throne. Rather, the throne passed uncontested to Oshilokun's son, Idewo Ojulari. Oshilokun's reign coincided with a resurgence of the slave trade after 1820, and he enjoyed great popularity with the people. It was during his reign that a Nupe slave, a victim of the Fulani expansion in the north, was brought to Lagos to be sold into slavery. That slave boy, named Oshodila Junjitakpa, would go on to become an important war chief under Oshiloku's son, Kosoko, and play a key role in many of the events to come. Oshilokun favored him greatly, and along with another slave called Dada Antonio, he was sent to Bahia in Brazil, where he learned Portuguese and the intricacies to conduct the slave trade on behalf of the Oba, and to collect duties from the Portuguese traders on the Oba's behalf. Oshilokun was also the king under whose reign Samuel Ajayi Crowther was sold into slavery in 1821. During Idewo Ojulari's reign, another important personage was introduced into Lagos politics. In 1833, the exiled former Oba, Adelie, went on a trip to the recently established Egba town of Abeokuta. There, he met the widowed Efunroye Tinubu, became enamored by her poise and charm, and he married her that same year. She was already a successful trader in Abeokuta, but she moved to Badagry with her new husband. While there, the enterprising Tinubu leveraged her husband's connections to expand her business, trading in tobacco, salt, and of course, slaves. She became one of the wealthiest people in the whole region. She would also go on to play an important role in all the subsequent kingly successions until the 1851 bombardment of Lagos. Idewo Ojulari's reign ended in 1835 when he was forced to commit suicide. We discussed the circumstances in the first episode of this series, linked in the description. He died childless, leaving the succession to the throne open. The leading contender was his wealthy younger brother, Kosoko, who had followed in the footsteps of their father, Oshilokun, to become one of the wealthiest slave traders in Lagos. But a series of personal vendettas between him and the leader of the Akarigbere chiefs, the Eletu Odibo, would see him denied the throne, and the exiled Adelie would be invited to retake the throne, supported by his wife, Efunroye Tinubu. These personal vendettas and the way it expanded the dynastic rivalries are the things we will explore in the next episode of the lead-up to the 1851 British bombardment of Lagos. If you are enjoying these videos, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to help grow the channel. The links to buy my books, as always, are in the description, so get buying if you haven't bought them. See you next time.